What is up, my friends? We are live at this Friday night, and as always, you are very welcome along to tonight's Late Night Agenda 100. There isn't a whole lot of transfer news for us to go through in any great detail. I'm not going to hide away from it. It is relatively quiet. As promised, we will discuss the names I mentioned earlier on in the early video. I'll tell you who I'm talking about, although there is one name that I can't quite go into detail on yet. As well as that, of course, I'm here to answer any questions that you guys have. We can have a little chat about the game tomorrow, of course, about Sunderland as well. That's an 11 p.m. start. We'll be live here from 10 p.m. to take you through it. And as always, we appreciate you guys giving up some of your Friday night to come and have a chat with little old me. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the clock. The brand new clock, we should say, as well, in the bottom corner. It's a little bit neater than the last one, so thank you to Connor for that one. The first poll question that we have for you guys this evening is just really your preference. What area you think Liverpool Football Club most need to go out there and get a signing in? So, is it midfield? Is it centre-back? Either of the full-back positions, or do we need a winger? Which one for you guys is the priority? Have a vote there, and we'll touch back on it in a little bit and see how everyone's thinking. So, look, I'm going to try my best to answer as many questions as I can tonight and give you guys as clear a picture as I'm able to do. Of course, your opinions on all of these topics matter a lot. Who are you expecting to start tomorrow? I'd love to know your thoughts on that one as well. We'll talk about when we can expect some of the boys to meet up with the rest of the squad who won't be travelling over to the United States, and a little bit more as well, including links to a few more players. That's really it. It's quiet though. I'm not going to come in and say otherwise. Yeah, it is definitely nervous at this point. And I sat there last night, right? And, you know, I came off the stream last night quite frustrated. Not at the stream, but at the lack of business. So I sat there last night and for about 5 minutes I thought, you know what, Craig? We might be all right this season. There's probably no reason to panic. And then I remembered and I looked at the squad depth and I just thought, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. You know, somebody said to me in the chat, I don't know how you do this, mate, without getting angry. I am angry. I'm really angry, but it does no benefit to me coming on here and moaning over and over again to you guys about it. It's not going to change anything. If the window does end in a frustrating way for us, I hope people understand exactly the ownership group that we have, and this isn't going to be a surprise to me as much as it will be an annoyance to me if Liverpool don't get the deals done that we need. Now, so let's get stuck into it and let's get into your comments. Hugo progressing quickly, walking without his stick. Yeah, great to see. Lovely to see Hugo over there in America with the lads. You know, the sooner the better. He's back out there on the pitch, but it was a serious injury, and I'm not even going to, guess at when the rehab will be done. But it is good to see him. That's what I will say. You know, the sooner the better we have Hugo back, and Andoni Areola has all of his options available to him. So yeah, great to see Jade, my man. Great to see. Monster Madness said Lucharel Geertruida would take for 25 million. So the Geertruida thing is an interesting one. It's a name that is kind of always around a little bit, but I don't know of any impending interest from Liverpool in him. You know, when we've talked about Geertruida behind the scenes a bit, it's always been brushed off to us. But, you know, I asked a question today of four different people that are involved in media, and I asked them, anybody got a clue where Richard Hughes is or what he's up to? And we even went back and started looking through the Getty images and all that kind of stuff to see when he was last photographed. And I think it was at least 10, 12 days ago, the last time we can find it. And nobody seems to know what he's up to. You know, we've been able to track where other Liverpool executives are, what they've been doing, who they've been looking at. But Richard Hughes, it's really quiet, you know, unless he's working on something spectacular or he's been sidelined somewhat with what's going to happen after the window closes and him moving to Al Hilal. I don't know. But honestly, yeah, I have nothing on Hughes whatsoever, and I don't know anyone that has any information on what he's been up to or what to expect from him. Geertruida was very much a slot signing. So, look, the interesting thing that I took from one of the reports today was something Ian Doyle said in his report. He said, he kind of floated the idea that perhaps we'd get a centre-back in and maybe loan a player in. So whether we loan a centre-back in, bring in a right-back, or loan a right-back in and bring in a centre-back, I'm okay with that. Like, genuinely, the idea of loaning somebody to cover at right back, I'm fine with, because that gives them time to have a look at Bradley. That gives them time to see how Frimpong gets on. The only thing I kept saying to you guys is nobody isn't an option. You know, I'm not really somebody who's a big fan of loans, but I could understand it in the right back scenario. I really could, because we've got Connor Bradley and everybody has high hopes for him from a levels perspective. But of course, the fitness thing, we just don't know. And it would be unfair to say we do or we don't. So I could understand the loan for right back. But centre back then would have to be a permanent signing. And again, you know, I'll give you the names that I was promising in the video earlier on. There's one I can't give you, but I can give you a little bit of information on, because I haven't got the clearance yet to go publicly with a name on one of them, and I don't want to break confidence for people. So, look, let's start off, I guess, with the thumbnail, and we'll start off and work backwards from there. So, PEDRO Neto. I know this is something that I think Dave Davis over at Anfield Index talked about a while back, but I've had it confirmed from a different person today that we are at least open to the idea of PEDRO Neto and are seriously considering it as an option. Obviously, the relationship that we have with his agency as well, and George Mendes, is one that would make it a viable deal for Liverpool. And of course, Chelsea. Look, I know it's very easy for us to sit here and say we don't want rejects from X, we don't want rejects from Y. Ultimately, though, every transfer is sort of that, isn't it? You know, if you look at Salah, you could have made an argument that Salah was a reject from Chelsea, but it worked out all right for us. And I made the mistake when we were signing Ryan Gravenberch of thinking, are we just taking cast-offs here from Bayern Munich? He couldn't get a game over there, and then he came into us and did well. So I'm not here to say to you that PEDRO Neto is the guy. I'm not here to say to you that PEDRO Neto is the answer. I can only tell you what we hear. And I did warn in my Discord group earlier on to don't shoot the messenger on this one, because it doesn't really overly excite me either as a fan. And especially if you're looking at it as a Salah replacement, it feels lazy. So I get it. I understand anybody's frustration hearing the name PEDRO Neto. It isn't the most exciting name in the world to hear. So I do understand it. But, you know, I can only talk about what I know. And, you know, I'm sure there's stuff that we don't know. And hopefully it's more exciting stuff than we're going to talk about tonight. But PEDRO Neto is the first name that we discussed. And look, what are the concerns we would have there? Well, obviously his injury record would be a concern. But there is something about the player. I have to say there is. There's something about PEDRO Neto that's always stood out to me. But his injuries, that's been a problem. So, look, we'll wait and see what happens on that one. Do let me know your feedback, though, on the idea of PEDRO Neto. And again, please don't take this as a guarantee. All I'm saying to you is I was given a list today of 4 people. One of them I can't talk about yet, but the other 3 I'm happy to talk about publicly. And Neto was one of them. You know, and this is different information to where Dave Davis, I believe, got his information around the interest in Neto. And he was full credit to Anfield Index and Dave Davis. He was the first one I seen out there with this, and that was a few weeks ago. So, you know, whether that leads to a bid or not, I don't know. I really don't. Hannington said, hey Craig, the club seems to be jumping from one player to another. There are no realistic targets, meaning they're simply playing games. I hate it when we're linked with almost every player. To some extent, I get it. You know, like, this is the transfer window, so it's kind of what I expect. And, you know, the thing that worries me the most, my friend, is it doesn't seem structured, does it? It doesn't seem like we had a cast iron plan that was set in stone and we were going to go and do A, B, and C. It does feel like we're still assessing some options. And that makes me nervous, because it really doesn't look like we've had all of our ducks in a row, as has been promised to us by many people, especially in the media, that Liverpool have all of their targets ready to go. I just don't feel like that's the case. And I don't think it's unrealistic of us to ask, are we a bit messy behind the scenes? Because it doesn't feel like a well orchestrated window so far, does it? David, always a pleasure, sir. Evening, Craig, bro, and community. Winger for me. Oh, I'm with you, David. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. You know, a winger is number one for me. A winger without a doubt. After that, probably centre-back for me, I think, would be the second one. And the reason, David, I'd say centre-back is I've high hopes for Leone. But even if this was Van Dijk coming back from an ACL, I would say tread with caution for the first season, or the first half of the first season. And that Van Dijk will be somebody with way more experience. So for me as a fan, I find it really difficult to put too much stock in the idea of Giovanni Leone having a huge impact this season. And I think to expect that of him again is probably asking a bit too much. And then we have Xhaka, who I do expect a big season from, and I do expect to be the partner for Van Dijk in the longer term. But what happens then if we pick up a knocker we need to rotate? If you're looking towards Joe Gomez, and I've made this point before, there's 2 issues there. One of them is his contract situation, a year to go. And the other one is, of course, the fact that he himself has had his own injury concerns. So I think we are a little bit short at centre-back. Right back, as I mentioned at the start of the video, or stream, excuse me, I don't mind a loan on if it's to just see how Connor gets on. You know, as long as it's a good player and not somebody of the, you know, Ozan Kabak or Arthur Mello type signings that just all of us know from the start is just a waste of time. So hopefully if we do go down that route, it is somebody that at least we can get excited about. Like maybe even, again, I'm just floating this idea because I don't know it to be the case. But let's say Jed Spence, maybe you can talk Spurs into a loan with an obligation or a loan with an option. I'm not sure if you can or not, but I'm just putting it out there. And while we're talking about Jed Spence, he is named number 2 on the list. I know that some of the lads from the Echo and some other people don't think that Liverpool are actively pursuing or interested in Jed Spence. My information is very differently, and people that I've spoken to, again, think it is sincere. Now, of course, with these things, there's some things I can tell you and some things I can't. And if I could tell you exactly why I think it's sincere, I think you'd understand more, but I can't because it will get somebody into trouble. So Jed Spence is named number 2. PEDRO Neto is named number 1. There's a young defender from a Premier League rival that I can't go into detail on. I can't give you the name because I haven't been given clearance to talk about this, and I don't want to put somebody's livelihood in jeopardy. So a young defender from a Premier League rival is somebody that we're looking at. After that, you're just going to have to use your imagination until I can get clearance to give you a name. And the other name on the list that we were talking about was Bradley Barcola, which is no breaking news to anybody, but it's very serious. Like, we are, I think, close to getting into the conversation about money there with Barcola and PSG. So they're the 4 names for me. The young defender that I can't give you a name on, but from a Premier League rival, PEDRO Neto that we've spoken about, Bradley Barcola and Jed Spence. They're all names that, you know, we can feel confident that are genuine options for Liverpool. But again, I have to keep using the word option because I don't know how this pans out. You know, last summer I had far more concrete information on the likes of Wirtz and Isak, and you see me, I was pretty straightforward in coming out with it. I'm not at that level yet, so I don't want to give you guys false hope, and I don't want to put myself in a pile of shit here. So that's where we're at with that. Elks said, as promised, we fired Slot. So last night I ordered the new home kit with Dom on it. Restored my All Red membership and a few shirts. Love you, Craig. Well in, my friend. Yeah, same here in the Houlden household. As soon as he was gone, we start ordering a few bits as well. You know, nobody in my house has actually ordered the new home kit because they're not really fans of it, to be honest. I'm waiting to see what the away and third kits look like, but have got lots of new bits and pieces, some cool Adidas stuff as well. So well into you, Elks, and All Red membership ready to go for the preseason games. Now, you know the way we're playing Como in a double header? I've seen somebody put it into the chat last night, and whoever it was, thank you. My dumb ass forgot to read it out. But that game is going to be shown on All Red. So both the games against Como are going to be shown live. One of them will be at midday, and one of them will be at 6 p.m. Can you guess which one I won't be doing? Yeah, I'll be on the 6 p.m. when I think Connor's going to do the early watch along that day as well. I see a couple of people having guesses at names. Honestly, I can't tell you whether you're right or wrong because I made a promise today and I keep my promises to the people that are kind enough to share information. So I can't tell you the name of the young defender. But, you know, if anything more comes of it, if I get clearance to talk about it in more detail, I promise you I'll come on and give you the name. Hughes hasn't Scooby-Doo. I love that name, by the way. Hughes hasn't a Scooby. So obviously, how this window will end, the World Cup, change of manager, things are complicated, so we could only bring in 1 or 2 more. F off, FSG. Well, look, that's kind of the smart money, isn't it, mate, what you've said? That's exactly what I think will happen as well. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're wrong. I hope we're all wrong to be pessimistic, but the reasons that you've said, I think, will be the excuses trotted out if we're all frustrated as well. You know, change the manager last minute, force them to change tact on a couple of... But here's where I get really annoyed about that. And this, of course, is not aimed at you, my man. This just makes me even angrier that they waited so long to sack the manager. Because, you know, many of us felt like he should have been gone by January. And if they had have done it then, and they had have at least known what they were looking for, and they had to start planning a little bit more in advance, maybe we would have had a bit more time. But I don't think you're too far off. You know, I think that's probably what we'll be talking about come the window shutting at the start of September is the usual, as I call it. Some of the business being done, but not all of the business being done. And that has been a trend under FSG that I've always found very frustrating as a fan. Taj Fort, how are you, my friend? Said, what would happen if we buy Barcola and what would happen to the right wing position? I mean, look, somebody would have to shift across. There's no denying that. You know, whether that somebody is Rio, whether that's Bradley Barcola, whether that's a mixture of them and Victor Munoz, don't know, mate. I mean, I found it interesting that when Rio Ngamo was being interviewed recently, he spoke about the right wing position as one that you can help me out with this one, I might be wrong. But did he not come on and play right wing for England in that friendly for a little bit that he played before the World Cup? If I'm wrong on that, I apologise, but I thought I had a memory of him playing right wing there. And he did say that he was working on that position as well as the left-hand side. And he said he feels comfortable to have a go on either side. Loved hearing that from him. But I also did wonder at the time, was that giving us an insight maybe into what could happen if what you've said, mate, Bradley Barcola was to come in? Chris, Tatton Music. Always a pleasure, Chris. Hope the music's gone well for you, sir. Hope all's well, Craig. It's getting to squeaky bum time now, man. I've had it with this interested in monitoring crap. I know. You know, and I have to say thank you to a couple of people in the chat as well. I mean, fair play. You were looking out for me before the stream started. There was a few people saying, I don't envy Craig on days like today when there's not that much to talk about and everybody's frustrated. You're right. I guess all I can do is not try to take my own frustrations out when we come on and speak live, because it's definitely squeaky bum time, as Chris has said, and it's definitely a frustrating time for us Liverpool fans because there's been nowhere near enough activity yet in the market. So yeah, here's that quote from Rio about playing off both wings. He said, yes, definitely. I think being unpredictable on both sides is key. Obviously, everybody knows I can play on the left, but on the right, I feel like I'm improving and I'm getting better. So yeah, definitely off the left or the right this season, which is great, you know, because I think we need to look at what we expect of our wide players in this season. And when you had Mohamed Salah, the expectations was obviously in goals, because that's what Mo delivered. Mo delivered assists, Mo delivered other parts of his game, but he always showed up with goals. So I think when we talk about wide players, we have to talk about what we expect of them. And I think a lot of us just want to have that 25, 30 goal season from Isak and these guys to be helping to fire him in with a few sitters across the 6-yard box, and again to get him into the positions where he can do the most damage. As well as that though, unpredictability, like Rio said, is something that is going to be important to us, and that counter press and the energy levels to try and win the ball back and counter at pace as high up the pitch as possible. So yeah, it's been even more underwhelming than I expected so far. You know, I wasn't expecting a summer like last summer, but again, I want to go back to something Connor touched on in his video this morning. 1 second. I just want to read something Connor sent to me that he was talking about this morning. Basically, there was, which one of the journos was it? Ben Jacobs on TalkSport back in June the 18th said, this is the first of many big moves for Liverpool this summer. They're going to be really busy. Now, I don't know, maybe it's delayed, but where is the busy summer? Because sometimes I think maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe I'm not being fair to journalists about what they've said or done in the past, or what they've written about promising, or what they're hearing. And I think we all have a recollection of Liverpool going to have an active summer, but maybe not one as chaotic as last summer. And I also remember a lot of people writing that Liverpool don't want the winger situation to drag into August. Well, we're nearly there. We're nearly there, and not only is it dragging on, we don't even know who the target is at this point. We assume it's Bradley Barcola, but we don't have any bona fide cast iron information that says Liverpool are in those conversations. Look, for what it's worth, I think we get Barcola. If you gave me 50 quid now and said, Craig, lash that on a signing, I'd be putting the money on Barcola. But we can't rule out Arsenal. And the longer it goes on, the more chance we're giving Arsenal to get back into the conversation. SS90 said every summer they say the same thing. Yep. But For me, and I've been really honest, I don't like FSG. I've never liked them. They're nearly owners for me, and I keep coming back to this, but ultimately for us fans, it's the squad. That's the most important thing. The squad and the manager, and feeling like that they've been filled out enough for us to be competitive. And I've always felt with FSG, you can't say that they're shit owners because they're not, but they're nearly men. They don't get the job done. They don't go all the way as much as they can. They seem to do 8 of 10 things and leave the final 2. And that final 2 can sometimes be the difference between an injury or not, between a successful season or not, or between an option for the manager to change it up or not. And I'm fed up as a fan of having those good starting 11s, but not having the depth on the bench. And then we always get sucked into the same situation where we convince ourselves that if everybody stays fit, X and Y might happen. Or we convince ourselves that if everybody stays fit and youngsters come through, we'll be grand. But ask yourself this, has that ever happened? Has there ever been a summer where that's happened? No, it hasn't. And last summer, we already talked about the fact that we didn't finish the job in the window. The season went on and showed us that we had a very particular lack of squad depth. And now we've lost more players and we still haven't filled them out. So right now, ladies and gents, we're minus players from last season, let alone building this out to add more in. We're minus players. So I'm confused as to what they expect Iraola to be able to do. You can't keep saying, oh, well, we're bringing in a manager who wants to promote young players. I mean, all of this shit just sounds cheap to me. FSG, remember when we appointed Arne Slot? One of the selling points that we were given was that he's been able to fight with people with bigger budgets in the Eredivisie and have success there. He's able to overachieve. And people talk about that as a positive, and it is to some extent. But again, it's cheap. We're expecting these guys to come in, have one hand tied behind their back and achieve miracles. While our contemporaries, our peers, our rivals are out there spending what needs to be spent every year. Not once in 3 years, every year. And this is clubs like United, like Chelsea, who've had financial difficulty in recent times or concerns or hadn't had a lot of European football. And they're still out there acting like they want to succeed and acting like they want to back their managers. And can we say the same right now of Andoni Iraola? Because nobody fears that the manager won't be good enough. I don't think many of us are worried about Andoni Iraola as a character or as a head coach, but I'm definitely worried that he's not going to have the squad he needs. Sorry, where was I? Any updates on Barcola, and did you ask if Nusa is possible? So on Nusa, it's definitely possible. There's no denying that a Nusa signing is possible, but at Jayden, I've never been given any clarification that he's a target Liverpool are looking at. So I can't say to you with clear conscience, mate, that he's one that, we should be keeping an eye on. At that price tag, he's definitely good value. But Barcola, where would I say? I don't think we've put a bid in, as some people have suggested, but I don't think we're too far off it. Like, I really feel like that's the closest one that we're readying a bid for. And if the numbers that are being mentioned are true, if what ITK Space said the other day that Paris Saint-Germain would take about 120 million euro, I think we have to pay that. What's 120 million euro? Like, it would be 100 million euro, which is about 86 million quid, and then 20 million in add-ons. I think that's what Liverpool are probably going to have to pay. Whether we think he's worth it or not, if you look around right now and what Leipzig will be demanding for Diamonde and what PSG are refusing to pay, if you look around at what others are paying, that's probably the going rate for somebody like Barcola. Now, I'm not against us pivoting and going for somebody like a Nico Williams or a Nusa, but we want the best. In that position, I think we should aim for the stars and shoot for the stars. That meme guy said, I hope we don't get Champions League next season, so FSG has to respond, because for a club in all competitions, the depth of this squad is absolutely appalling. It is. And what's going to happen is, again, we'll sacrifice the League Cup or something like that. Soon as we get a tricky tie in the League Cup, this is what will happen. We'll have to put out a young team again. We'll have to hope that they come good. but we're not giving ourselves the best chance. And this is what frustrates me every single season, because every one of us is excited to see what Andoni Iraola brings. Every one of us expects the squad to step up a lot from last year. I'm sitting here thinking Wirtz will be better, Isak will be better, Szoboszlai's now settled in, got his new contract, he'll be on the go. Loads of positive things. And if you look at our 11 stacks up against almost anybody. But your starting 11 won't win you the league unless you're really, really lucky and nobody picks up an injury. And look, that's not going to happen, especially in a World Cup year. Colin, look, can I just say something, Colin, without being a dickhead? Your comment was, I guess supporters thrashing FSG must not have lived through the Gillette era. Why is that the standard, Colin, mate? Like, why is the lowest bar the aim here? Of course we remember the Hicks and Gillette era, but they were ran out of town, mate. And nobody's saying, like, you can have an adult conversation where you acknowledge the good that FSG have done and ask the question, have they done enough or are they willing to do more? Everything isn't so binary, mate. There's always a grey area in the middle. And everybody that I know will, of course, credit FSG for lots of great stuff. The Annie Road end, the main stand, the AXA training centre, the area in and around Anfield. But you also have to acknowledge that that ended up helping their bottom line as well and increasing their value. But what we want is a squad that can go and win things. And yes, we have won a couple of league titles, but they've never delivered on the follow through. They've never delivered on building a squad that is there to dominate. So can we stop being children and stop saying, well, you mustn't remember Hicks and Gillette? Of course we do. Of course we remember them. I remember the Moores family before them as well. But everything doesn't have to be the lowest bar. We're Liverpool Football Club, mate. We're Liverpool Football Club. We shouldn't be scrapping around. We shouldn't be going up like Oliver saying, please, sir, can I have some more? We should have owners that want this club to dominate and build on being the most successful team in English football history. And I don't think that that's unreasonable for fans to ask. So, again, stop being an idiot. Stop going to extremes to say that everyone's forgotten about the good stuff. They haven't. But that doesn't get them off the bad stuff. The bad stuff still needs to be talked about, mate. And it still needs to be highlighted. Or we're going to be stuck in this cycle of rinse, repeat, and we're here again. So you either want the club to be successful or not. And to be successful in this day and age, you have to spend. You have to compete. The Premier League is awash with money. They have to go out there and back their managers, or we are going to be left behind. And of course, how much you spend doesn't necessarily translate into success, but it does play a big part of it. And if you look at net spends versus league title wins over the course of history in the Premier League, there's a pretty clear line going through it to show that it is a big factor. And as somebody said the other day as well, goals and points, they kind of go hands in hand as well. So yeah, I don't want us to get into these lazy conversations where we're just trying to one up each other in the chat and just be arseholes about it. Like, the owners have done good stuff. That's not what this is about. This is about us as fans wanting to believe in the manager and the team that they've got the best chance to succeed on the pitch. Trek War said, is it true Branthwaite is one thing out of Everton? I'm not sure, mate. I wouldn't know the answer to that one. Really good defender, but I don't know is the honest answer, mate. Would you be excited for the young defender? It's a good question, and my honest answer is I wouldn't have paid enough attention to this gentleman to know whether to be excited or not. But other people that know a lot more about the person than I do, and have watched a lot more of him than I have, would say it would be a good piece of business. So, and these are people's opinions that I would certainly put a lot of stock in. So for me, I'll be honest and say, don't know that much about him. Know the name, but wouldn't profess to have watched many of their games or anything like that. Stevie Boy said, will the Barcola bid be made before the 1st of September? I hope so, Stevie Boy, yes. Look, I know there are people out there that said they think bids have gone in. I wish I could sit here and tell you that, but I don't know of it. I do know that he's the guy we're looking at. he's the number one target at this point. There's some pieces today almost suggesting that we're still in the mix for Diamonde, and I want to read you out something here. So this was posted on the Echo, and they said, Jan Diamonde has reaffirmed his desire to leave RB Leipzig after reportedly removing most of his Instagram posts relating to the German club. It was reported earlier today that Liverpool hopes of signing the winger may be revived after PSG balked at his alleged price tag. The Parisians seemingly aren't keen on handing over the supposed £120 million or €150 million that Leipzig are adamant on receiving for their 19-year-old asset. Diamonde has given some cryptic responses when asked about the transfer this summer. However, there isn't much reading between the lines required to decipher his latest social media response. So it looks like he's going into trying to force the move mode at this point by removing all the Leipzig stuff. And again, I'm going to say to you, whoever's representing him is not doing their best work for him, because they're putting the kid in some awkward positions, and they are, I don't know, they've made a mess of it for me in this window. But I don't for 1 second think we're back in for him. And in fact, if we were, I'd be concerned, because he's made it pretty clear where he wants to go. It's up to his agents now to sort it out. And the more I thought about this and tried to think about it logically, I don't actually think whether he signs for PSG or not will be the difference maker with Barcola. I think that will come down to Barcola probably not feeling the love at PSG. I've no doubt he loves the club, but I'm not sure exactly of him feeling like he's properly valued there. As we mentioned last night, I think it was Darmeshet on Sky said that in the big games the PSG have played recently, you know, if you're talking about the Champions League final, the games against us, and I think semi-finals, Barcola was starting behind Dembele, Kvaratskhelia and Desiree Doué. So with his contractual situation, I don't think they can afford to just keep letting him sit there, because they're going to have to either extend him, and he won't let them just extend him because they haven't got Diamonde. He'll want to know that he's going to play. So I think there's still a chance, even if Diamonde doesn't go to PSG, that we can go get Barcola. So I am optimistic on that one, but yeah, that's where we're at with that. Right wing is the top priority, and preferably a left footer. The best right wingers in the world are left footed. Well, at the minute, yes. You know, inverted wingers are certainly in vogue at the minute, and certainly doing their best work. You know, you look at Michael Olise, Mohamed Salah before that. You aren't wrong, mate. But we have to also shop in the markets that are available, and you know, we won't be able to go in and get Michael Olise. We won't be able to go even look at, the likes of Rodrigo, because he's out with an ACL till 2027. So we're somewhat limited, which is why I think the pivot to Barcola is what we're doing, you know. And as you said, we don't have a left-footed option really to cut in there. So we probably are going to have to force the issue a little bit and wait and see if we can get Barcola, and hopefully one of them comes out as a right winger. Sorry, I want to get through a couple more. Best said, Craig, from what I've seen from Fabrizio about Barcola, I think he knows something, but he's not willing to say. What do you think? Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, he's, how do I say this? One of two things are where my mind's at with Romano and Barcola. Either what you've said there is absolutely spot on, or somebody's in his ear trying to force the issue. Now, whether that's the agent or somebody else, I don't know. But I would say you're probably right. I do think he doesn't need to nail his colours to the mast that strongly on Barcola. You know, he could play it a lot more coy, and he could be a lot more vague about it. But you're right, he's been pretty adamant that even when the noises were coming out of PSG that he might not move, he's always said that he's available and to keep an eye on the situation. So on this one, he's been really consistent all the way through, and I certainly hope he's got more information, because, you know, it would be a good signing. You know, not the ideal one, not the one that we maybe started the window hoping for to be the big star signing, but a very good, credible option with plenty of room to improve. And yeah, I hope you're right. So we did ask, what position do we need to strengthen in your opinion? What position do we need to strengthen most in your opinion? So we gave you 4 options: centre back, full back on either side, winger or midfield. And we'll touch back in on that one in a couple more minutes. Paul said, what annoys me about footballers is they get paid a lot of money to practice their skill and yet they can't kick a ball with both feet. The one that annoys me the most, Paul, is when you see players skying shots from inside the 18-yard box or leaning back. That's the one that I can never get my head around. You know, fair enough if you hit the post, keeper makes a save or miss the target by a little bit. But the ones that are leaning back, taking a shot, I never understand. Knee over the top of the ball, keep it down and get it on target. Save the Manual said he knows Barcola wants to go. He knows LFC have held talks with Barcola's camp, but he knows it will all depend on PSG agreeing to sell. Definitely there's something happening between Liverpool and Barcola. I think he knows more than that even. No, obviously I'm guessing because I don't know the man, but I think he knows more. It feels like he's getting encouragement from somewhere. Now, I'd be able to... If I was to join the dots and say which side I think he's getting the information from, I don't think it's the Liverpool side. Because for me, if the Liverpool side's going to break stuff, it's likely to come through Ornstein because he has relationships with people at Liverpool that I know about anyway. But the other side of it, I just feel like he's probably getting it from the other side. Now, whether that's PSG or the players' camp, I don't know. But it feels like he's definitely getting fed something on it. Now, we have to also acknowledge that him constantly talking about it could be trying to force the issue or bring it into the public forum more. So we have to weigh up all of these things because, unfortunately, transfers can be a grubby business. And some of it can be talk about a story enough, try to talk it into fruition or get interest in a player. But this does feel like it's sincere because, as he's pointed out many times, Liverpool and Barcola is a situation that goes back quite a while. Hughes hasn't a Scooby, said FSG are glass ceiling on the club, hold us back. Yeah, look, this is the one part I've always had a gripe with them on. You can't fault them for the business side of the club. You can't fault them for the commercial revenues, the way they've built that, the people that they've brought in. They have really built the club up in that regard, and they have put us from way behind Manchester United revenue-wise to right up there with them, very close alongside them. And they deserve credit for that. But for some reason, when it comes time to the transfer window, when it comes time to putting their hand in the pocket, they aren't as forthcoming with the money as other clubs are, or they're very rigid in the way they assess how finances should be run. And you couldn't say to me, Craig, that's their prerogative as owners, of course. And they will always make sure the club is sustainable. But it just comes down to what we as fans think is reasonable or not. And I think if we look around the market right now and you see a club like Chelsea with no Champions League or no European football spending the money that they have in the likes of Morgan Rogers, and I know they brought in money from selling left back and they've sold another player or two as well, but then you look at United, they're going shopping for 3 midfielders. You're looking at Arsenal, they brought in Solis and they're looking at a couple more. I don't think Liverpool fans are asking for what other clubs of a similar stature to ours are doing. That's I think we're being fair about it. I think it's reasonable to expect a big signing to replace Mohamed Salah. I think it's reasonable to say we need another centre-back because you let Konate go out the door. And I think it's reasonable to say that we need cover in the full-back positions. So I don't think Liverpool fans are being spoiled or petulant here. We're not asking for 3 top-notch players in every position. We're just asking for what we see other clubs doing and we know is possible. Hello, Craig. Hope you're well. Do you think we signed 2 wingers or just 1? So do you mean 2 more wingers? Because if you mean more, no. The consensus seems to be 1 winger, 1 more winger after Victor Munoz, and then 1 utility forward. I think the utility forward is likely to happen at the very end if you get the likes of Chiesa to move. So 1 more winger and a utility forward. And I think that's sensible. Because if you don't want to bring in another centre forward, in my opinion, because Hugo Ekitike will be back fit. And there's no point in having a long-term solution to a short-term problem. So I would rather get somebody, we're not getting this person, but like a Ferran Torres, somebody who can play central, left, right, somebody who can play like a Jared Bowen. Again, we're not getting them, but somebody of that ilk that you can look at and think, okay, utility player across the front line. That would tick a lot of boxes for me. Any Zabarani news? I've got nothing new on that one today on Zabarani, but I think there's been enough written about from, you know, journalists like David Lynch. I think maybe Lewis Steele has spoken about him and a couple of others to say that it is something that's credible. You know, I couldn't tell you with any level of confidence if Liverpool are going to put in a bid for Zabarani or not. But what I struggle with on that one is, will PSG take a loss on him? Because the idea of Liverpool spending about £60 million, I just don't see that in this window with the way the market is. And that's what they paid, give or take. They paid about £58 million to get him from Bournemouth. So, you know, I know the initial conversations that Liverpool had was for a loan, but that was back a bit further. Whether that progresses to a loan with an obligation, a loan with an option, I don't know. But what we do know is he's the type of centre-back that Iraola likes to work with. He has experience in the Premier League, and he is potentially gettable. So all of those things definitely put him in the worth keeping an eye on category. Abdullah, how are you, bro? Said, good point, Craig. But again, in my opinion, our attack is not as much of an issue compared to the defence. So I believe we need betterment there first after the Salah replacement. I think both of them are credible, Abdullah. I think both of them are positions you're more than fair to be concerned about. Like, for me, I'm probably putting a lot of stock in the fact that this is the Salah replacement, and I probably am putting a lot of context or a lot of emotion behind that, because it makes me angry that we did this to ourselves by ripping up his deal and letting him go a year early. We put ourselves in this position, and I think it's a real own goal, for want of a better phrase, to see us now scrambling around trying to find the solution for a problem that we know has been at the very least on the horizon for quite a while. But in defence, mate, you're preaching to the choir. I think if we go into next season with the options that we have at centre-back, it's very, very naive. And at right-back, well, look, let's be honest about this. We're in the same position we were last year. And at the end of last season, every single person speaking about Liverpool talked about right-back. We're not going to... Even a couple of weeks ago, Abdullah, if I remember correctly, there was a couple of articles saying that Liverpool know they can't go into next season and make the same mistake at right back. They can't be playing Jones there. They can't be playing Szoboszlai there. So, yeah, all very sensible, mate, and I agree with you. I'm just... I promised myself today I wasn't going to come on and be cranky, and I wasn't going to come on and start taking out my frustrations on the chat or anything, because that's unfair to you guys. But I promise you, however frustrated you guys are, I'm right there with you, because it's a dereliction of duty. It just is. And it's unacceptable for a football club like Liverpool to again be in this position. Keith, Craig, do you think we'll make another signing? Yes, I do. Look, I'm pessimistic, Keith, about getting everything done in the window. But I have to believe we'll get more signings in. You know, there is at least time on our side. But I can only keep repeating myself here. Every day that goes by, other options are being removed from the market. Every day that goes by, other clubs have less time to find solutions if we take one of the players. And every day that goes by is another day that Andoni Iraola isn't working with a new signing on the training ground. And all of that has knock-on impacts and knock-on effects, whether it's a player taking a bit longer to acclimatise into the setup and the league, whether it's, you know, them having to be on holidays a bit longer after the World Cup or whatever. You know, every manager wants the players in early. So I never understand why we're so slow off the mark. It feels like we're waiting for the last couple of weeks and the desperation to kick in at times and panic to kick in, and then hopefully we can get one or two things done. This doesn't look like we sat there at the end of the window or the end of the season and went, right, these are the targets, boys. When the window opens, we're moving. Because we haven't. We haven't moved quickly on anyone. Even the Victor Munoz one, I would argue that our hand was forced on that because of Newcastle's interest. Joe, how are you, sir? Lovely to see you. Evening, Craig. None of the options excite me at the minute. I get it. I totally understand where you're coming from, Joe. There are some of them that I'm more than open to, but at this point, if we don't get Barcola, there's nobody there that really excites me at that point because Rayan doesn't seem a realistic option. Minta, I'm just not sold on at all. So for me, it's Barcola or we're rolling the dice, basically. Thomas said, Spence is a no-brainer. Back up the Kirkes, but could push him if he doesn't improve. Let's face it, Bradley's brilliant, but he will get injured again. So plenty of game time at right back too. So on that one, Thomas, and I'm not saying you're wrong, just giving you a counterbalance. If we had this conversation a month ago, Thomas, I don't think any of us would be this excited or as upbeat about the idea of signing Jed Spence. Would that be fair to say? Because he had a good World Cup, it certainly brought me further along into thinking it's a possibly good idea. But I'd be a liar if I said to you that if you said his name to me a month ago, I wouldn't have laughed at it. I would have laughed at it and I would have said, nah, not a fucking hat, not a hope. Not a hope. So on this one, I actually think Ian Doyle is probably right in that a lot of us, and I would put myself in that mix, are probably putting too much stock into a good tournament with England. That's the way I see it. And I think he's probably right on it, because he isn't a name that we would have been excited about before the World Cup. So, Skits, let me just reiterate again why you're not as clever as you think you are. So you said, makes it up, being linked with about 300 players a month on here that nobody else has heard about. Okay, that's fair enough, dude. You're entitled to your opinion. But tell me one channel, one journalist, anyone who's given you a definitive list that has come true. Anyone. You won't be able to because it doesn't exist. And what I do on here a lot of the time, unless I talk about my own specific information, is go through what's in the media and discuss them. I don't believe all of these stories. Half the time I come on here and I say, I don't think there's much credibility to that. But it's my job to report the news here. It's my job to give you talking points, to have a discussion. The childish aspect of, mate, anybody that's been watching this channel for a long time knows that my reputation when it comes to transfers and what I nail my colours to the mast on is pretty fucking good. So I don't have to sell myself to you and I don't have to win you over. But I am trying to explain to you why you see the stories you see, because they're the talking points. Nobody could run a YouTube channel by just talking about factual information that has happened, or else you wouldn't have heard from me since June the 19th. Do you get where I'm coming from? We have to talk about it because between us all, we have a good fun conversation about whether we think it's realistic, what we think the price might be, or not. But Liverpool and any football club will assess dozens of targets before moving on to the final list. And I can never tell you exactly where I get information from because it puts other people's jobs at risk. But the snidey bullshit is just unnecessary. Like, am I on here selling you something? Did I force you to come in? Am I promising you something that's not delivering? Like, I like to think I'm pretty fair about what I say, mate. And yeah, I'm willing to stand up and stand over everything. The only thing I've really gotten wrong was the Bellingham situation. And that, as I've explained off camera to people who've met me, I've talked about. But Wirtz, Isak, Carvalho, Canade, all signings that I was on the money on. Even when people were doubting it, even it was dragging on, I was on here every night saying, calm down, nothing to worry about, that's going to happen. So I'm confident and comfortable in my own skin, mate. But again, it'd be a lot easier for me to just do an 8-minute video, not have to deal with the snidey cunts in the chat, and not have to worry about it, and just not answer back to anybody. But I show up every night because I enjoy it. But I'm never going to put up with idiots that think they're smart in the chat when honestly they don't know what they're talking about. Kabul's said, any updates on Pardo? Think he'd be a good utility forward? Honestly, no. And I'm really surprised that not only have I not heard much about Liverpool and Fernandez Pardo, I've not really seen much in relation to a move for him at all. And he was on pretty much every journalist list of 5 or 6 wingers that Liverpool were running the rule over. There was him, there was Yankuba Minta, there was Barcola, there was Said El Mala, there was who's the other one? Buzamana Torre, and we haven't really progressed on any of them. In fact, Victor Munoz came in and he wasn't really spoken about on anyone's list. That was one of those that seemed to come out of nowhere, and it was good. It was great, and it happened quickly. Mr. A. Santino, always a pleasure, sir. You're always so kind. Hi, everyone. Sorry I was down a bit yesterday. Had a dentist appointment. What did I miss? What's the news? And thanks for everything. You haven't missed that much. I was just talking about what I promised I'd come on and talk about earlier on in the early video was the names of the players. One of them, I can't give you a name yet because I haven't got the nod to say, okay, go ahead with a name. But I can say one of the players that we're looking at is a young defender from a club in the Premier League. After that, it's Jed Spence, Pedro Neto, and Bradley Barcola are the other 3 names that I was discussing at the start of the stream. Keane said, Craig and the lads have worked miracles being able to pull out as much content as they have with how little there is to work with. Could do with less arsehole shitting on them. Yes, please and thank you, because I'm respectful to everybody. And this is what gets me about people that think I'm a loudmouth arsehole. I'm respectful to everybody until there's time not to be. If you show me disrespect, I'm not going to waste my time showing you respect. But if you come in and ask a sincere question or have an opinion, I'm here to chat with you all night and I appreciate your time. But as Keane said, not here to be dealing with arseholes. I've better things I can be doing. Keith said, I feel we'll panic buy come deadline day. I mean, again, I can logically understand, mate, why you feel that way. It's a shit show so far, and to say anything else would just be false. It is. It's a shit show of a window so far, and you have to caveat that by saying there is still time. But you're right. The longer it goes on, the more it feels panic stations, and the more it feels like we're probably going to overpay. Right, so let's close off this poll. We said, which position do you most need to strengthen in your opinion? And the winner with 66% was winger. And I'm right there with you, I agree. So winger, 66%, centre-back, 20%, full-back on either side, 10%, and midfield, 4%. And thank you so much to everyone that took the time to vote. Mark said, keep up the great work. Hope family are well. Good, thank you, man. Good family, all good. Yeah, we're supposed to actually be out for dinner tonight, but our my in-laws got the weeks mixed up, so I wasn't even supposed to be streaming. So yeah, last minute we had to cancel that, and yeah, glad to be on here with you guys as always. Ruman said, Craig, you'll never please everyone, but you please enough. So I've no problem with people thinking I'm wrong about something, but to say that we talk about 300 players and I think we're signing them all, it's just not right. I discuss it because they're written about, they're talked about, and I tell you where the articles come from and I tell you what journalists write them. I don't believe 95% of the stuff out there because I have information that is a lot better sourced than a lot of the crap that gets put out there. But again, I don't know everything. I never claim to know everything. I'm a fan. I'm a fan who over the years on here has made some relationships with people and kind enough to share some information with us. But ultimately, like everybody else, I want the season to start. I want to be talking about the matches. I want to be talking about formations. I want to be talking about performances of players. I want to be talking about results. The transfer window is... the transfer window is the transfer window. It's just part and parcel of a cycle each year. Craig, I know you're not meant to talk about the centre-back, but I was excited. I never said it was a centre-back. I said it was a young defender. So, again, just to not be putting words in my own mouth, I said it was a young defender from a Premier League club. Ben said, Craig, do you think Barcola would play on the right considering we have Gakpo, Rio and Munoz? My guess would be that Rio would go to the right. Or maybe they share the load. Like, Munoz can play on left or right. No issues with that one. Chiesa is still at the club and you would say probably stronger off the right-hand side, but ultimately I don't think good enough. And then Rio probably going to be used on either side. The interesting one is also Gakpo. Because is Gakpo going to be starting the season as our starting left winger? Or is he going to maybe angle for a move away? Because he is going to, oh, excuse me, my apologies. He is going to play second fiddle to Rio in the very near future, which is why I think the conversation about Gakpo maybe looking at a move away has been doing the rounds. That meme guy said, seeing Somerville signing for Saudi already makes me sad. It's crazy. And that deal, by the way, was concluded today, just in case you haven't seen it. Al Hilal officially announced that they completed the signing of Crescencio Somerville on a 4-year contract in a deal worth up to £65 million, £55 million fee, and £10 million in add-ons. And the player will earn up to €17 million per year at the Saudi club, which, if my maths is right, is €340,000 per week, give or take. That, I don't know what to say. Like, what's that? So that's Somerville on about 260 grand a week, something like that in pounds sterling, which is absolute insanity. But like I said, you know, if you go there, you're going for the money, no problem. But it is a shame, like you've said, that somebody that young in their career has already left Europe and headed over there to chase the bag. And look, fair play to him. He's entitled to look after his own interests and his family. But from a European football fan perspective, yeah, it is. It's a little bit sad to see. Because the league is nowhere near where, you know, the standard of the European leagues are. Wearied Madge said, I would strengthen our defence because of the issues we had last season. We can't afford to do the same again. And for a winger and a 6, we just need to fix the areas that we were an issue with last season. Yeah, we need to just get the Salah replacement. If I woke up tomorrow and Barcola was signed, I'd be far more relaxed about the window. Because, you know, I think right back isn't a big issue. I can tell you, and I have told you, there is an agreement with Ratu between ourselves and his party. Or his agent. That doesn't mean they're going to necessarily trigger it. It just means it's there and it's an option. He has a release clause, so everything could be done very quickly if Liverpool wanted to. There's been multiple conversations with his representatives and his agency, so that's one option. I'm trying to think. We've spoken with Stuttgart as well, like I've said before. I think it's for Gemma Andres. But all I know is that Julian Ward was over there recently having conversations. Could have been about Stiller and Kema Andres. Could have been about a couple of people. Don't know. But I can't get a read on Richard Hughes. Nobody seems to know what the hell he's up to or where he is. Even trying to do some, you know, deep dives into the Getty images and stuff to see when he was last photographed or where he was. You know, I don't know where he is and what he's doing. Or whether he's been sidelined, or I haven't got a clue. Thoughts on Chalobah to fill some defensive gaps? I think somebody had linked us to Chalobah earlier on in the window. Can't remember who it was. I don't know. It'd be another one of those that I wouldn't have really watched all that much of to give you an honest opinion on. Centre backs for me that I think are credible, Zabarani, and I think Nico Schlotterbeck is the answer. Because ultimately we've got a year till Virgil's gone. And what happens if we wait till next year to replace Virgil? Everybody's going to know that we need to go out and get them. Everybody's going to know we need a big signing for the left side. So for me, Nico Schlotterbeck should be brought in now, and that should be the option for the left-hand side. Then you've got Jacque and Leone, young centre-backs, and maybe next summer then you go and trigger Kwanzaa's clause to bring him back. Maybe you don't. But Nallo today, actually, he completed his loan move, so that's done and dusted. This was announced earlier on. He has gone to HJK Helsinki on a season-long loan. So that is one defensive option that Liverpool won't be able to look at turning to this season unless there's a recall option, but I don't know about that. So, Warrow, you don't know anything about who I know or don't know, mate. And you say I'm thin-skinned, but I'm not. Am I shouting? Am I angry? Mate, yeah, there's nothing else I really want to say. There's nothing I can add to it, mate. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. And I don't really give a fuck what you think. And that's the honest view. Like, you're some arsehole on the internet that I've never met, don't know, never spoken to, doesn't know who I know or don't know, doesn't know who's in my phone book, doesn't see my WhatsApp messages, hasn't got a clue. But one thing, Warrow, is, and you can't argue about this, we are the most watched Liverpool channel on the internet. Now, I hope when you're at home, jumping up and down, being a petulant little bitch, that eats away at you. And you know that. Because ultimately, you would kill to be sitting where I'm sitting. And I must have something about me to be here. So you carry on shitting on me all you want. But just do me one favour. Keep watching and keep commenting. And keep helping me pay those bills. Because even when you're in here trying to shit on me, you're helping put my kids through college. So you crack on. I'll still be here, number one, top of the pile, smiling and having a laugh. So believe me, don't believe me, I don't give a fuck, bro. You mean nothing to me. Carry on. And how am I thin-skinned? If you sat here and somebody says to you all day, you're a prick, you're an arsehole, you know nothing, do you think you'll be standing there applauding them? Because I promise you, you wouldn't say it standing in front of me. You know that and I know that. But you think you're a little hard man on the internet, say it to my fucking face and see what happens. Because I promise you, if you do see me, the only thing you'll ask me for is a photograph. Because that's all you little bitches ever do. Act big on the internet and then run up to me for a photograph when you see me. Because you haven't got the balls to do what I do, princess. You don't have the balls. I wonder what motivates the trolls to come on and say such illogical comments. They could say that to Romano. Has Romano ever told you where he got a story from? Has Ornstein ever told you where he got a story from? Has Lynch ever told you where he got a story from? Has Lewis Steele ever told you where he got a story from? Of course they haven't, because they'd never get another one again. These people are thick. They just don't understand anything, but they think they're clever. Fuck them. It's not that hard, like, you know? Ask him. Jump on Romano's next live stream and ask him to tell you where his Barcola information's coming from and see if he answers you. Because I guarantee you ain't getting an answer. Because nobody can do that. So you either have trust or you don't. You either believe somebody or you don't. But either way, there's always a leap of faith. You know, I could come on here and say what all the journalists say. Club sources tell me. Club sources indicate to me. Club sources blah, blah, blah. But it's all just bollocks. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what they say before it. The information either stacks up or it doesn't. And a lot of the time, yeah, you can use an educated eye to look at it and think if it's logical or not. But again, most people know that. So, what are you saying, mate? Respect Barnes. I'm going to say this again. Fuck John Barnes and his stupid opinions. Why is it triggering you so much? Why does it bother you? John Barnes is talking out his hoop. And John Barnes needs to be called out for talking out his hoop. Has nothing to do with him as a footballer. He was a great footballer for Liverpool. I idolised him, had him on my bedroom wall, love the guy. But saying to a camera that Liverpool don't need to bring in an attacker is absolutely stupid beyond comprehension. Saying that Arne Slot shouldn't be sacked is absolutely stupid beyond comprehension. And blaming fans for booing inside Anfield because of the piss poor performances we were seeing isn't great. So, again, don't care. Barnes, in my opinion, is talking out his arse. And I'm going to tell you, I think he's talking out his arse. Because he is. Do you agree with his opinions? I bet you don't. But again, if we just don't talk about these things, impressionable young minds who look at it and go, oh, John Barnes is saying this. John Barnes is bought and paid for. John Barnes is part of Liverpool Football Club's ecosystem. So you'll never, ever, ever hear him talking negatively or criticising anything to do with the line the club wants out there. Anybody with an educated guess could figure that out. And I love John Barnes, the player. Love him. Absolute superstar. But it doesn't mean he's right about his opinions. It doesn't mean he can't be critiqued on his opinions. We are able to separate between the two. Same with Carragher. Love Jamie Carragher as a player. Oh my God. An absolute warrior. Champions League final. Never seen nothing like it. That man put his body on the line over and over and over again. Warrior. Doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he says on Monday Night Football. Leighton said, really hope one day I wake up and we've signed somebody. I know, same here, dude. Because each day is another day and Donny Ariola's working with the lads on the training ground. And, at least tomorrow we have the benefit of being able to watch the game. And I'm so looking forward to that. We'll have something to talk about. We'll have something to enjoy. And we'll see which youngsters are starting to make the step up and which youngsters are convincing Iriola. I mean, I loved what I heard from Lewis Koumas today as well. Let me just read you out some of his quotes from earlier on. Love seeing that kind of positivity come from him. So he was asked about catching on Donny Iriola's eye, and he said, yeah, definitely think I'm a player that the gaffer could sort of like. The way I press, the energy I bring to the team. I'm always looking to impress, so I'll just see where it takes me. I love hearing those type of things. And also he said, what's your ambitions for the season? He said to play for Liverpool in the Premier League, of course, but that's not how it ends up going. I'm always looking to develop and always looking to improve my game. We just see what happens and where that takes me. David said, hey Craig, hope you've been well. What's the news? There's not much, man. There's not much tonight at all. And also I'm equally as intrigued by the contractual situation for the 11 players that we have. I wonder, of the 11, who we renew or who we're willing to let their contracts run down and leave. Like the whole stuff with Curtis Jones has gone really quiet from that initial interest from Inter Milan. Then, of course, there was Nottingham Forest who were interested as well, but apparently he didn't want to move to Forest, but I don't know after that. But again, it won't feel right if Liverpool lose him for free in a year's time. That's a homegrown lad in his prime that could go out the door for nothing. It's different to maybe Virgil, where you think, okay, that's a natural end. Virgil's at the end of his time, 36 next season. If he goes, fair enough. But some of the lads like Elliott, Jones, Bajcetic, Ramsey, again, same situation. Sorry, where am I at? Monster Madness said, hear me out, Ordonez for 40 million, Ratu for 25 million, Jordan Boss for 12 million. I don't know who the fuck the other lad is, mate. Sorry, Faizalev for 15 million, Kolo Muani for 30 million, depth, energy for Iriola. I mean, you can keep Kolo Muani. In all honesty, I don't want him anywhere near Liverpool. Ratu could happen. Who was the other ones that we were saying? Joel Ordonez, I don't know if he's ready, and that's not even just my opinion. From one of his former coaches, I believe, was speaking about he's not sure if he's ready yet. But Joel Ordonez is a really interesting character because he comes from the conveyor belt, I think, Independiente del Valle over in Ecuador that brought through the likes of Pacho, Caicedo. So definitely comes from a really good footballing academy and setup, and probably will move on to big things at a top club. Just not sure yet if he's ready for the step up. And the profile we need is experience for centre-back, because we've got Virgil, and after that, Gomez up in a year and 2 young centre-backs. So I'm going to keep trying to ram home the point that we need some experience in the team now. And we need somebody who's going to be able to step in and lead the defence when Virgil leaves. And I don't like the idea of leaving that last minute to do next summer. Thoughts on Chalobah to fill some defensive gaps? As I was saying earlier on, mate, I wouldn't be the guy to really give you some detailed, in-depth views on Trevor Chalobah or on Chalobah. I don't know, honestly, if he's good enough or not. I haven't paid much attention to him as a footballer. I mean, I did just reply to it, Monster Madness, but again, I do try to get through them as and when I can, but I also have to dip into the normal chats as well, bro. But I just did read it out, and I was going to, but like I said, just been a little bit sidetracked for the last bit. But again, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Would you take Jarell Kwanzaa back? Yeah, I would, but I have to say I think the clause is no longer active for this summer, if my memory's right, and it gets less as each year goes by. So the clause for this summer, I think, was insanely high, and it wouldn't have really been good value. And also, looking longer term, who is going to play on the left side of centre back in the future? Leone, Jacquet, I'm not sure which one of them, if either of them is going to shift across and be the left-sided centre back, but I do think Schlotterbeck is just such an obvious one that we could get that's left-footed that would just work. Craig, Isak or Soboslai on pens? Oh, good question. Um, yeah, I mean, we are going to have that conversation around penalty takers. Um, I like Maka on pens as well, by the way. He's always impressed me when I've seen him take them. He scored some under pressure ones for Brighton as well. Probably Isak, I would say. But it is going to be an interesting one because with Isak, as the season goes on, he might not really be playing every match if he's rotating with Ekatike or whatever. With Salah, he was more often than not there and he was taking them. Yeah, it's a good question, man. Probably Isak, but I'd be more than comfortable with either of them stepping up. I mean, we know how well Dom can strike a ball. Maka, as I said as well, very, very good. Always impressed me taking penalties. I remember one at Old Trafford in particular that there was a long delay and he still had to wait and wait and wait and then scored it for Brighton and looked pretty composed doing it. Virgil on pens, I say. Oh, mate, that penalty we took against Chelsea in the League Cup final where Kepa was basically standing to one side and he still went there. That's one of my favourite all-time penalties. It was absolutely incredible. You know, the balls to do that when Kepa was standing there. I loved it. And yeah, Virgil knows how to strike a ball. Remember back up in the Celtic days as well, he wasn't shy about free kicks and stuff. Keane said, I think Dom's an unbelievable penalty taker, but I'd say Isak takes them at wanting to get his confidence up, which is always big for centre forward. Yeah, I think you're probably right, Keane. I mean, both really good shouts, both very credible options, and I don't think I'd be overly nervous with either stepping up. But usually, I'm not going to say the greed wins in these scenarios, but yeah, usually strikers, they want those penalties to help their stats and stuff each season as well. Craig, I was out at Nashville today and saw Hughes in a restaurant. Talked to him a bit as well. We know he is around with the team at least. Oh, that's class. That's really good. Thank you. That helps a lot, mate. Thank you. Because genuinely, nobody had a clue that I spoke to today what was going on with them. Nice one. Thank you for sharing that one, and I hope you had a good time visiting the lads as well, or being in and around. The club are always so good about stuff like that. I love when they go over to America or Australia or wherever in pre-season, and I love the access they give because they're well aware, of course, that, you know, the opportunities for fans on the other side of the world and the other side of the Atlantic are limited. So they want to make the most out of the time that the players are over there. So I always love seeing it. I always love seeing the interactions, the little meetups and stuff that they do. So well in, nice one, and thank you for sharing it. So one thing I do want to just talk about for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, if I can, is if anybody out there is, and I know this isn't an easy subject to discuss, but, you know, as men, we don't really talk about our feelings too much, do we? And, you know, unfortunately during my life, and I'm sure many people my own age's life, a lot of friends over the years, a lot of people have had battles and struggles and some that they didn't get through. So if ever there is a time where you feel like you're struggling, you feel like, you know, things aren't going in the right direction for you, two things I would always like to say to you. One, you're an incredible person, and maybe now things are tough, but never give up on yourself. Keep going. But most importantly, talk. Talk to someone. Talk to your mate, talk to your parents, talk to your brother or sister, talk to your teachers, talk to anybody. That first conversation, those words, it takes tremendous courage. And from experience, I can tell you that I've had times when I genuinely didn't think I had anything to offer my family, the world, my friends. But don't give up. Don't give up. Always, please, always speak up. And this is why I love Paddy Pimblett so much. Apart from the fact that he's a damn good fighter and a top lad, I love that he highlights this. I love that he speaks about this, and it just makes me so much more supportive of him and his platform. And Fury speaks about it as well, and others, you know. And I am talking to young men here more because at the minute, you know, it's been a tough few years for young men. And I'm not saying, of course, that there isn't issues for young ladies. Of course there is, but I was a young man, so I can speak about this. And as I've gotten a little bit older, I've started to understand the cycle and the signs and the little things that make me think I might be in a rut and I might be feeling down. And I'm lucky. I've got a good support system. And as I said, I've got some experience in dealing with it. But I do know of a lot of people who are suffering at the minute. So please speak up. You'd be surprised. The conversation with your mates, you might feel embarrassed about it, but you'd be surprised when you get chatting with your mates, when you open up a little bit, you know, they're a lot softer than you think. Because whatever feelings you have, whatever insecurities you have, a lot of people in the world feel the same way. A lot of people have those same fears. A lot of people have those same worries. So talk it through. Help. You could be helping somebody else without even knowing it. So as always, my man, and all of you, keep being you. You are fucking awesome. Even if you don't realize it yet, you're awesome. You asked me 10 years ago, I thought I had nothing to offer the world, nothing to offer you guys, nothing to be around for. But somehow here we are. And I'm going to always try to remind you that you are amazing. You are loved. You do have a lot to give the world, and you are going to leave a mark, even if you don't feel it right now. Never give up on yourself, because you're fucking awesome. And deep down, you will help. You will help somebody else, and you will help yourself. So don't give up. Appreciate you, and thank you. I know these aren't nice conversations to have, but it's important to me because, you know, I'm every day I'm here. I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky I was able to get out of what I got out of, and I appreciate you all. And I appreciate your kindness and your empathy to each other as well. Rob said, this channel has got me through a very difficult couple of years, being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Because of your channel, my wife is in a better place. That's so cool, man. Thank you for sharing. You know, one of my favourite aspects about the live shows that we did was getting to chat with people and getting to hear about their own stories about how they came to find the channel, how they got to chat with our community and stuff. And, you know, we're about to have our first Anfield Agenda wedding as well in the next year or so, which is really cool. And I've gotten to see people form relationships from the chat. I've gotten to see people form friendships from the chat. And I've gotten to see people have real life benefits. And I certainly get it. My God, lads, you guys give me so much more than I can ever give back to you. And so I'm not thin-skinned, to go back to that lad earlier on. I hate it. I hate when people do this on the internet, because we're all struggling out there. There's no need for people to be on the internet trying to shit on people every day, because you wouldn't want it to your mate and you wouldn't want it to your brother or sister. So there's no need for it. You know, it's not about being thin-skinned or not. It's about wanting people to just be good human beings and wanting people to understand that their words have actions and the words have consequences. And I'm okay. I can bat it off. But there are some people who you don't know. You don't know what's going on inside their mind. You don't know what they're struggling with. So best to just not say anything rather than come in to be an asshole. I just don't see why, you know, and it makes me sad to think about people getting up every day and just going on the internet trying to one up everybody. It's just, as you get older, you'll understand it's empty. It won't satisfy you. You won't fill that void that you're looking for. It won't make you feel happy. It won't. Dom Sladen said, along with a winger, we still need a DM. Yes, but I've always been relaxed on the DM position because it's not a numbers thing in midfield for me. If you look around at the amount of people we have in midfield, I don't think we don't have enough bodies. I absolutely agree we probably don't have the specialist, but I do think, maybe wrongly, I've always thought it's a one in, one out situation in midfield, which, you know, could be a bit later. We could have to wait and see what happens in the window, if offers do come in for some of our players or not. Maybe that leads to the conversation around midfield. But yeah, it's definitely something we need to consider. Where are we at? Oh, wow. So Team Talk and Build have just said Manchester City are prepared to pay over €100 million to sign Yan Diamonde. Despite strong Premier League interest, Paris Saint-Germain reportedly remain Diamonde's preferred destination. However, the French club are yet to make an official move. City have the opportunity to hijack the deal. Manchester City also have the financial resources to meet Leipzig demands, with the German club valuing the winger at €120 million. Now, here's something about Manchester City that you probably don't remember. You know their case for the 115 or 130 charges. Imagine I told you that that case ended at the end of 2024. Think about that. That hearing for those charges ended in 2024, and here we are at the end of July 2026, still none the fucking wiser whether those charges are going to be held up against them or not. And what are we seeing? They're out there signing Elliot Anderson. They're out there making big money moves, stacking up their squad, now looking at the likes of Diamande. It is a disgrace. It's a disgrace that football has been left in limbo for this length of time over these charges. How on earth can it take nearly 2 years to get the verdict out, even allowing for the difficult legalese part of it? How can it take that long? It's a piss take. It's not a good look for the Premier League, and football fans deserve clarity on this, because they have been delaying this for a long time. And I've always tried to say the same thing. The longer City are at the top level, the longer we get used to it, the more desensitized we are to the shenanigans and the shithousery that got them there. And it needs to be sorted out. It's an absolute piss take that it's going on this long. You know, because we think of them now as Manchester City, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, all-conquering Manchester City. But how did they get there? Did they use methods outside the rules? I think football deserves to know that. And the English football fans deserve to know that. So, also from the Mail, RB Leipzig's Jan Diamande and PSG's Ibrahim Mbaye are among Manchester City's potential wing targets, with Chelsea's Pedro Neto also on Manchester City's list. So now you can start to see why I'm talking about Neto, because if City are looking at him and Liverpool are talking about him, obviously his agent's out there shopping him around at the minute as an option. So again, to the little pissant that said I don't know anything earlier on, well, how's it looking now, bro? When I bring Neto to the table and then the same night he's being offered around to another club. Like I said, I know what I know, but let's wait and see. Mark said, which kind of tells me Man City knows they won. No, I view it very differently, Mark, to be honest, mate. I view it as them stacking it up before. Like, I don't think it's an accident that Guardiola left when he left. Not for 1 second. I think, and look, I could be wrong, but my reading of this is they're getting business out of the way now in case of a potential ban, in case of a potential sanctioning. And I think Guardiola's disappeared before the shit hits the fan. That's how I look at it. Because some of those charges, and I'm not saying all of them get proven, but some of them are pretty matter of fact. They're not really open to interpretation. And some of them are, I don't think, winnable for City. Unless somehow the rules aren't the rules, but let's wait and see. Sorry, I want to just work back through some chats now that I've missed out on. Alan, and thank you so much, Alan, mate, for being a member with us for 6 months. Really appreciate you, sir. Said, just need a signing. It's getting so frustrating. Oh, mate, it is. It's really disheartening as well, because even if in a perfect world we go out there and we get everyone that we think we need in this window, it's going to take longer now to settle in for the team to get used to these guys, for them to get up to speed. And, you know, I never understand, Alan, the delay in all of this stuff, because it's important. The time you can't get back on the training ground to work on all of these things before the season starts are important. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you. Sessions on stage. Appreciate you. Thank you. Kwanzaa. I don't think for this summer, but there's definitely an opportunity again next summer. I think, and if I'm wrong on that, I apologise, but I think this summer's release clause or buyback clause option has expired. So I think it would have to be next summer, and I think it's about 60 million euro, give or take, next summer. And there's already an agreement, an outline agreement on a length of contract and a wage structure with Kwanzaa that was agreed before he even left Liverpool. So it's definitely still one to keep an eye on, but I don't think it'll be for this summer. What's this one? So Moby Haig posted something quite interesting. He said, Ahmed Bhatia, reportedly leading the consortium to buy a significant stake in Liverpool, posting a snap of himself and LeBron James playing golf together. LeBron James, of course, is a very high-profile investor in Liverpool Football Club. This is all looking like it's going to happen. He said Batia's brother-in-law also invested 1 billion in equity in that firm that took over Boston-based team, Boston Celtics. Remains to be seen how much of a stake and what control. So earlier on, I think it was The Athletic. Let me just go back to my notes. So yeah, The Athletic earlier on said the investment update, it would appear that a 30% stake is at the top end of what the group are looking at discussing with FSG. The consensus is more like an 8 to 10% on an overall valuation of about £4.5 billion or $6 billion. Muldor said, lost too many friends in suicide. I'm a vet, so lost a lot after seeing action. My favourite quote for this stuff, I exist out of spite, so fuck them. Yeah, unfortunately, like 3 lads I was in primary school with and 2 guys that I played football with, unfortunately, have taken their own lives before the ages of 40. And it's soul destroying. It's so, and you just wish, you just wish that they did speak, they did open up, they did realise and understand how loved they were and how important they were to their friends and family. Mr. A. Santino said, when I first discovered AA, I was in a very dark place with dark thoughts. This community got me through it. Having something every day mattered. Nothing but love for all of you. Thank you, Craig. Same with me, man. This community has got me through so many times where I was in a shit place. And COVID in particular, that whole era, man. Yeah, there were nights we only had 150, 200 people in the chat, but my God, that connection was important at that point to me and it kept me sane. So appreciate you. At this rate, I think Elmo will play right wing. What are you saying, Elmo? You play right wing? I think he's up for it. I think there's a chance. Josh said, hey Craig, thank you for what you said about mental health. I thought a few years ago that I didn't want to be around, but my niece was born and now she's my world. And thank you. We need a good season. It is, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter, how many friends you have. If these thoughts creep into your mind, sometimes it's a chemical thing. Sometimes I'm not qualified to talk about it, but your mental health's so important. I keep making this same comparison. If you hurt your arm, you go to the doctor, or people could see that you have a sore arm. You never know what's going on inside somebody's mind. So I always have this silly little thing that whenever I have an interaction with somebody in the public, whether it's, one of the checkout operators in the supermarket or somebody working in a shop or something, I always try and have a little laugh with them, just to a moment, just to try and make somebody smile. So I'm glad you're still here, Josh, and I'm proud to have gotten to know you a little bit, mate, over the last while. And I'm even more happy to hear that your niece is bringing you so much joy. That's brilliant, man. Mike said, love the new website, lads. Really well done. Saved it to my bookmarks for my daily news. Cheers, AA family, and hope you're all well. Thank you. Appreciate that, Mike. It's obviously early days with the website. The team worked really hard behind the scenes to make sure that on day one, when the website was available, there was plenty of content already up on it. So it was being built for a while behind the scenes. And if anybody does want to check out our new website, you can either scan that QR code there on the screen, or you can just go to AnfieldAgenda.com. You're going to have regular columns on there from myself. Keane, our chief moderator, is going to be writing a little bit as well. You're going to see bits and pieces from a team of writers that we also have. And I hope you enjoyed. If you have checked it out, it's something that we've talked about doing for a long time, but we eventually got around to it. Miss Prime Barkley, PL 30, 40 yard banger goals. Um, I just miss football, Jaden, at this point, because I've always said to you, I'm not hugely excited about international football. So like Liverpool to me is everything. It is everything, and my whole week revolves around Liverpool and our results and our games. So I'm just looking forward to tomorrow where we can come in and talk about a match and talk about what's happening on a screen rather than hypotheticals or frustrations that we have. It'll be a lovely distraction and I can't wait. Shay said Hassam Hassan as the Diamandi alternative. Shay's not good enough and like nowhere near good enough. Like I don't think what did he have? 2 goals or 2 assists or something in the second tier of Spanish football. And even in the World Cup, mate, he did decent, but he's just not good enough. I mean, we might as well give up if that's the right hand option. And I don't think it is because I've never got any credibility put onto those links. Right, so Romano's just said Real Madrid submit an initial bid for Yan Diamonde, Leipzig, with club-to-club talks underway. Contacts have started this week between the two clubs, as Bild reported. Negotiations are ongoing with the players' camp. I don't know what to say anymore, lads. But it doesn't fill you full of confidence, does it? I don't know. I don't even know how to react to it. Like, so now you've got City in the mix, Real Madrid in the mix, PSG in the mix. But what we still don't know about us is what the fuck we're doing. You know, this is just making me sad. As each day goes by, this is looking more and more daunting. And more like maybe our worst fears are going to be laid out, that the window is a shit show. I don't even know what to say. Like, that's... yeah, I don't... Hassan played in a league and helped Oviedo get promoted. He's not good enough though, Kevin. Like, come on, mate. We're looking to replace Mohamed Salah. You know, an Egyptian who had a semi-decent World Cup and has had a bang average couple of seasons. He ain't it. But look, at this point, mate, I fucking don't know anymore. Connor said Minta is better anyway. You just have to wonder, like, what are we doing? Genuinely, like, what are we doing for the winger market? Because we're just stalling. And since we've stalled, we've seen Bouzamana Toure go. El Mala has been the subject of an offer from Borussia Dortmund, which has been rejected, but they may come back. So all of the options that we talked about are less and less. And now you've got Arsenal again being linked with Barcola and Nico Williams. I just don't know what to say anymore. You know, it's if this doesn't concern you or think, I don't know, I'm worried. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit speechless to it because I don't really know how to react to it or what the impact is going to be. Because I did say earlier on, I don't necessarily think that Diamande to PSG is the only way we get Barcola. I do think it's possible that there are other ways we get him because of his contractual situation, having 2 years to go. But it's looking harder and harder and harder now. And again, what we see with a lot of these other clubs is an ability and a willingness to spend big money. Now, we know we were willing to go up to €100 million for Diamande, but it didn't get it done. Yeah, I don't know. How are you guys feeling about this? Because I'm a little bit shook from that one. That wasn't on my bingo card for the day. Hughes hasn't a scoop. He said Diamande to Madrid. That could mess up Barcola. That clown Hughes has made a joke of this window, ripped up Salah's contract, and this is what we get. So that is the one thing, mate, I am trying to figure out, at least in my mind at the minute, is how this will play. Like, I don't think necessarily we should say if Diamande goes elsewhere, that means no Barcola. But it does make it more difficult because it also lessens options for other people. So Elise, we knew was the dream there for Real Madrid. So if Real Madrid are now getting no love on him and maybe they're moving this way, again, it's hard to look at this and think that Liverpool have a strategic plan. It feels like we are scrambling behind the scenes at the minute. And I don't think that it's illogical to think that. And as you said a moment ago, mate, they ripped up Salah's contract to let him go a year early. What are they doing? Like, genuinely, what the fuck are they doing? Jester said, I really don't think we've ever been in for Barcola. I think it was Jan or bust and maybe panic for Minta. All I would say to you is, and I'm not even going to talk about what I've heard and not heard. If you just look around at the extent of journalists that, even from different parts of the world, have their own stories about Liverpool's interest in Barcola, you'd have to say there's credibility to it. And, you know, but the other side of it, like you've said, is he isn't the right winger. He isn't. And, you know, maybe if Gakpo was going to go, maybe Barcola makes sense then on that side. But you are right. Like, it's slim pickings for the right-hand side. But it was always going to be. There were never going to be a whole smorgasbord of options there. And this is why I get panicked, because every day that goes by, options are removed off the table and more clubs are coming into the mix. And it makes it difficult. And we know Liverpool don't get involved in bidding wars. So, I don't know. But I know heads need to fucking roll, because, again, this is an embarrassment. And, like, let's just say it was Minta, just for argument's sake. Still don't understand why nothing's happened. You know? If like, a lot of people think we pivot to Minta, fair enough, but why haven't we even looked at that? You know? It's crazy. Embrace Gaming said Neto and Barcola would be good for the winger choices. Look, there isn't a fibre of my body that wouldn't be happy swapping Gakpo for Barcola. I'd be all over it every day of the week, all day, every day. Even if there's more money on top of it for us, that would be an upgrade in my opinion. The Rayan stuff, I'd love, but, you know, I don't know anything linking us to Rayan. I don't have anything concrete to say to you that Rayan's a realistic option for us. All I keep seeing is that Bournemouth don't want to sell. Marco Rose has gone in there, said he doesn't want to sell him. He doesn't want to sell Alex Scott, you know, and after that, I don't know. And on the stuff about Nico Williams, well, that is Liverpool's wet dream, you know, a release clause, €90 million. Don't even have to negotiate with Bilbao. You have to win the player round, but €90 million. So yeah, what do you do there? You know, so again, all I'm going to say is, what the fuck are they doing? What is our recruitment team doing? What have they been doing? Where is the planning? So now I'm definitely even more panicked. Mythical returns, and look at this, 35 months, nearly 3 years, bro, as a member. Thank you. Said it's always Madrid, isn't it? Sick to death of Madrid. Really hope we start acting, because this is a disaster at the moment. It is, my man. Ryan said, hey Craig, Fabrizio said Madrid for Diamande. I know, I was reading it out there a few minutes ago, bro. I'll go through it again here for you. His exact post was, breaking, Real Madrid submit initial bid for Yan Diamande to RB Leipzig with club-to-club talks underway. Contacts have started this week between the two clubs, as Bild reported, negotiations ongoing with the players' camp. So I think we can safely say Diamante's gone. That dream's over. Whether it's PSG or Real Madrid, they're both too flashy that we're not going to get involved in that, and we won't win that race. So they've shit the bed there, and now we just need the solution. But damned if I know what the solution's going to be. Has Hughes gone AWOL? Well, a gentleman earlier on in the chat said that he was there today at Nashville. But I don't know, is he sort of semi-sidetracked or something at this point, or semi-sidelined, because we know pretty much come the end of this window he's off. Matt, hey Craig, the club is the only thing that keeps me alive. I'm still so heartbroken for my ex, and all I live for is the club. Love from Belfast. Matt, I'm in the same boat as you, dude. Obviously not with the ex situation, but I don't say this as a thing of pride, mate, but I'm all invested in Liverpool. And I've got this really weird position of I love this football club so much and it wants nothing to do with me because it thinks I'm toxic or outspoken or a problem. And I find it really hard to, stay emotionally invested and love something that I know doesn't really want anything to do with me on a personal level. So that I've always struggled with. But yeah, we don't choose these things, Matt. They happen. We love a football club. You catch that bug. And I grew up with football. It was my life. I played it all day, every day. I played multiple games a week. I lived and breathed football. And like you, mate, Liverpool dictates my moods a lot of the time. And last season was the most frustrating season I've ever had as a fan. Because every other year, I could understand under Hodgson that Liverpool weren't great. Hadn't got the money, hadn't got the appeal at the time. And we were where we were. So I wasn't expecting anything. But last season was one of the most difficult I've had as a fan because we came in with huge expectation, having won the league, having spent a lot of money, and probably had one of the most frustrating seasons any of us can remember. And this was supposed to be the pick-me-up. This was supposed to be the get back to where we wanted to go. And here we are, still scratching around, trying to find, what they're at. But these guys are paid a lot of money. And we keep getting told they're geniuses, and we keep getting told about the data-led recruitment and all the models and all the people involved in it and all the groundwork that gets done. But where's the actual deals? Like, where is the bread and butter stuff? I wish the media sometimes would stop tickling their balls so much and stop blowing smoke up FSG's arse and just ask questions. What on earth is happening? Why haven't you got the manager, the winger that he's been screaming for? Ben said last season felt like a chore in a second job, so stressful. And it was non-stop, dude. Every night we were all angry, every night we were all frustrated, and we were just wanting it to be over and over. And then, yeah. Look, I'm going to stay on for a few more minutes, if you guys will have me for a few more minutes, because, with that news just coming out about Madrid, I think, a lot of people are probably going to have a lot more questions, and I'm enjoying being here with you guys this evening. So if you're happy to carry on, I'll carry on for another 15 or so. Just one little favour, if I could. If you haven't, please do hit that like button for me if you've enjoyed the stream. It only takes a sec, but it means a lot. David said, it's like when you say you bring a girl on a double date and you rock up with no one. Make something up. Yeah. It's just... I'm trying to find an analogy that will maybe make this work, but sometimes I just feel like we don't act like a club the size that we are. We don't project the confidence and air of invincibility that I'd want us to do. And I don't know. So here's the numbers behind that Madrid bid, by the way. Romano said Real Madrid sent €100 million official bid to Leipzig this week. 90 million plus 10 million in add-ons. Proposal on the table. Leipzig have rejected as they asked for more than 100 million to let Diamonde leave. Real Madrid remain in talks. PSG in talks for weeks, but no agreement with Leipzig. Yeah, this one's getting messy, isn't it? The whole Diamonde stuff. Matt said, thanks for the reply, Craig. I hope you and your family are doing good. You've been a big help throughout the years, mate. I've been drinking a bit. Hey, dude, thank you for opening up. You know, it means a lot to me that you're okay and happy to be a bit vulnerable with me like that, my man. I appreciate you, and enjoy your few drinks. I'm sure you've deserved them, my man. Great weather as well. Yeah, and look, I mean, I'm with my wife now 26 years as a couple, and we're married 19. But, you know, I had one big love before my wife, and that still hurts me to this day, you know. And I'm sure my wife's first love hurts her as well. But you do move past these things. And I thought my future at that age was going to be with this one particular person that I was with for 3.5 years, and, you know, um, became an adult with. But, you know, life has other plans for us at times. And I never imagined I'd meet the woman that has been my partner for 26 years, my best mate, the mother to my kids, my wife, and the person I trust most on this planet. But yeah, enjoy it, man. As I said, don't ever worry about being mushy or smushy. It's all good, bro. Much love to you as well. And hopefully someday our paths will cross and we can have a coffee or a chat together. Paul said it's been good tonight, but thank goodness preseason games starting tomorrow. Thank you for speaking up about mental health. Hey, mate, thank you for that kind words. And yeah, definitely for tomorrow as well, Paul. At least we'll have some footy to talk about, you know, some actual action on the pitch. P-Dex in the lab. So just go in and get the players. Jeddah's right back, Crystal Palace player centre back, 2 players at Monaco for the wing and defensive mid. If we're talking about Lacroix, it looks like he's going to Chelsea unless something has changed. If he's the centre back you're talking about, it looks like Chelsea are getting him. Justin said, well, Craig, it's scary how we struggled last year and we haven't added depth where all the big teams, including Spurs, Villa and Brighton, have more depth. I think it's worse than that though, Justin. Not only have we not added depth, we're already down on last year. Because by the time the season ended, Xhaka came in and Victor Munoz has come in. But Robbo's left, Canade's left, Salah's left. So we haven't even replaced the 3 that have walked out the door. Jones has got a year to go. Elliott's got a year to go. Costas has a year to go. Gomez has a year to go. Ramsey has a year to go. Bajcetic has a year to go. Alisson, Van Dijk, year to go, year to go. You know, and all of this is a future headache just waiting to happen. It is piss poor what's happening at our football club. And I am so angry that it isn't being written about more by people and more people aren't pushing back and actually trying to hold the club to account. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Not enough is the answer, but honestly, it's an embarrassment. And this should be screamed from the rooftops that they're making a mess of this and putting the pressure on them. But it doesn't look like there's some masterstroke plan at play here and that the geniuses that are supposed to be the data-driven, emotionalist droids that factually look on things, where the fuck are all of these lads? Where's their work? How are they justifying their existence? Muldor said, not that I want him, but if Diamande goes to Real, does it make Vinny more or less credible? I think it doesn't make any difference to Vinny, unless Madrid have a different plan from. And again, I'm just guessing here. You would have to think with Rodrigo being out for so long, and they will probably sell him when he's back, whether that's January or next summer, they're probably looking to fill that void. Then you've got Mbappe, Vinny Jr., I think with, a year to go on his contract or something at Madrid. I don't actually know the length of his deal. Yeah, so I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know what it means for Vinicius Jr., but again, I can't see a world where realistically we go out to look at Vinicius Jr. Josh said, thank you, Craig. Always means a lot. And my niece will be 6 in October. Nice. Class. Well in, mate. Yeah, I've only got, my wife has one brother and he hasn't had any kids yet, so no nieces or nephews for us. Medusa, Madrid negotiating for both Rodri and Diamonde is mad. Some decent journals were hinting at Tchouaméni to United yesterday. Would kind of make sense now. Yeah, I don't know. Medusa, I don't know. I'm freaking out a little bit, mate. I'm not going to lie to you with the lack of activity from us. It's really worrying, because I know what'll happen when the business doesn't get done. People will write about it and make excuses for it and talk about X being like a new signing and X going to step up, and we know it's all bollocks. Like, ultimately, why not give your manager the best chance? Why not give him what he needs and then see how he gets on? I don't like to see managers set up to fail or to make their job harder than it already is. And Iriola, I don't know, he must be concerned with what he's not seeing happening so far. Matt said, can't wait for tomorrow. Can't wait for the Reds. Yep, tomorrow's going to be a lovely distraction, Matt. And our coverage will start at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, by the way. The game's at 11. I'll be live here from 10 o'clock. LFC Spectre said, these journalists are a bunch of sellouts who don't have the club at heart. Best like us fans. Journalists don't want to lose their access for interviews. Look, that's right. That's the case. Now, I don't want to lump all journalists in together, but that's just a fact. If you're reliant on the club and access and all that stuff for stories or for your living, you can't. You can't. And I sympathize with them to some extent, but when they get uppity about it, when they get called on it, that's where I get annoyed, because that's clear. And I wish they'd just shut the fuck up then about the likes of fan channels who do call it out, because they should be patting us on the back and saying thank you, because somebody has to do it. And I'm not saying that I have a particular weight behind me or anything, but I do have a community and I do have quite a big following of people that I can represent. And I tried to do that. I tried to represent you guys by saying these things, by saying, what the fuck is going on? Where are the players? Why aren't you doing your job? And why I tried to hold FSG to account, because I want Donny Iriola to be a success. And I don't want them sold short. JSR said, surely as owners you would want to give your new manager the squad he wants to, and if it doesn't go well, you don't get blamed. Or maybe they're just not that arsed and they're looking to slowly distance away. I don't know, but it definitely doesn't feel like they're eager and hungry to win. Does Diamonde end up at PSG or Madrid? I don't know. I'd be absolutely just guessing and saying a name. I haven't got a clue where he ends up. Yeah, still the same one there. So, yeah, that's where we're at for now. Justin said, on another note, Craig, excited for tomorrow. Looking forward to the youngsters that haven't had a chance yet. I think Kumas, Abe and Dai. What about you? Who are you excited for? Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing Kumas, to see how he's progressed. Will Wright, looking forward to having a look at him. Obviously, Trey Neone, really big fan of Trey, and hope that he can get in the manager's thoughts. And then obviously Rio, seeing Dom out there, see where Dom plays and, how he looks in an Iriola system. Yeah, lots to look forward to tomorrow, definitely. But again, we got to be honest. We're being let down. The owners are letting the fans down. They're letting the manager down. They're letting the players down. This is what FSG does in the US. Spend big once and then sit on their money. This is why I don't understand the grief I get when I call them out. Because I never don't credit them for the good stuff. But surely as a fan, I should be calling them out and trying to hold them to account for what they don't do. It's weird because some people have this mad hard-on for FSG being good money men. I don't give a fuck. I care about them giving the manager the best And that's it. After that, I don't care if I don't know who John W. Henry is. Sign the checks, take your money when you sell the club, sail off into the sunset and live your best life. But while you own this club, you have a duty to give it the best chance of success. And I've never felt they've done that. Not the best. They've done good stuff. But they've never, ever, ever, ever made me go, holy shit, they want to win. They want to win and they want to win now. Never feel like that with them. As long as the Champions League money keeps coming in, I don't ever think that their desire is to win. It's to make sure that they're in that competition and that money keeps coming in the door. Mr. A. Santino said they're selling and don't care. Well, the don't care part, you know, I don't understand how anyone can debate that. John didn't bother his arse, or Tom, to show up for the last game of the season to say goodbye to Robbo and Salah. Couldn't be bothered to come across with that. You know, there was an article written, I think earlier on in the week, that said since John shit the bed with the Super League stuff, he's felt embarrassed about it and stepped back away from the day-to-day stuff at Liverpool more and more. You know, and again, how many times as fans do we have to hear about how clever they are? How many times do we have to hear about the genius of FSG, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, all the data-led recruitment, all like they get way more credit than they get critiquing. And I've never gotten it. Like, what has Richard Hughes done since he's come in to justify all the praise he gets? So he said 2 big numbers for Wirtz and Isak, which were the biggest numbers that anybody offered. Fair enough, got them over the line. But he's shit the bed so many times, been led up the garden path by Diamonde's camp, didn't get Zubamendi over the line, ripped up Salah's contract and let him go for nothing, watched Robbo swan off down to Spurs while I'm supposed to be happy as a fan with Costa's coming in to be his replacement. You know, 11 players out of contract in a year. This is just piss poor planning behind the scenes. Again, despite the Echo lads and everybody else tripping over themselves to praise them. I don't see it. Elliot said, Craig, do you think FSG backed the wrong horse in terms of backing the manager? Not necessarily, because Andoni Iraola can still benefit from those players. But even allowing for everybody to hit their stride and get back to their best, we're a starting 11 team. We just don't have the depth and the quality on the bench. And what's going to happen to these 11 players whose contracts are up in a year? I can't see a world we renew all of them. So unless we sell some of them this summer, that's more money out the door next summer when they walk out for free. Save the Manual said FSG let us down every time we were too close to becoming the team in Europe, but failed every time it was so close. City is doing what we should have done since Klopp left. Yep, and look at Alonso. Goes into Chelsea, no European football. Here, would you like Morgan Rogers? There you go, 116 million quid. You know, they're not fucking about. Planet Ball said, you've been spot on about Liverpool journos. They're nothing but a mouthpiece. I know, and this is why I will continue to call them out, and I will continue to stand up against their bullshit when they try to call us toxic or any of that shit. And Dominic King gets on his high horse. All of these lads can kiss my ass. Because honestly, they're not being sincere all the time. They know some of the stuff that they're told to say is garbage. They know that half the time they're being strung along. And they're good people. I'm not trying to say that they're not good people. But they want credibility. They want us to hang on their words. And yet they're not doing the other half of their job. They're reporters, not journalists. They're reporting what the club wants them to report. But not one of the fuckers are asking the hard questions. Not one of them are trying to hold the sporting director to account. Not one of them is asking why everybody else is out there doing business and we're sitting on our hands. And also, it's hard to ask it because they can only ask it to Iraola. And it ain't his question to answer. Same with Arne Slot. He was thrown under the bus half the time in press conferences because he can't answer what Richard Hughes is doing. But Richard Hughes doesn't want to show up. Richard Hughes just sits there and does that ridiculous round table video, which was an absolute waste of space. And that's it. Alfred said the whole ecosystem is corrupt from board, journalists and everybody else apart from the staff. Look, here's what I always say about it. In any other industry, journalists push back. American sports, journalists push back. Politicians, journalists push back. Governments, journalists push back. Teachers, public sector workers, journalists push back. But with football clubs, the relationship is a codependent one that seems to blacklist them if they really speak their mind. And I've always said that there is massive space for a journalist out there to break away from this bollocks and actually just be honest and write about it from an honest perspective, giving a true 360-degree report about the club, the good, the bad and the ugly, not just the stuff that they know won't get them in too much trouble. But that's the way football is, unfortunately, and it isn't just a Liverpool problem. You know, if you ask the tough questions, well, guess what? Next time you show up, you're probably not going to be let in the door, or somebody else from your newspaper is all of a sudden going to be doing that reporting. It isn't a balanced system, and we have to be honest and acknowledge that it isn't. It is stacked in favour of the football clubs because they don't want transparency, and football has a real problem with transparency. Again, watch the NFL journalists, because I can't talk about baseball because I don't watch it, but I often sit there and watch NFL reporters talking to people at the clubs, whether it's the manager, whether it's the sporting guys, asking proper questions, putting down, why isn't this happening? Why haven't we got this done? Not for us. No, not us football fans. No. We get told, so what's your favourite meal? If you came in and this was there, what would you like to do? Anything on the players that's injured that we know aren't fit yet? Can you just repeat the same talking points that we've had every week? Like, when's the last time you learned something new from a press conference that actually mattered to you? It's just bollocks. Twisted Carbonite said nobody knows what Liverpool are planning. Nobody. At this point though, mate, I don't even know if Liverpool know what Liverpool are planning, because it doesn't look like there's a plan in place, and that's part of the problem. I think we're all open to the idea that we might not know the targets, but justify to me why none of them are getting pursued. That's the part that I don't think any of us can answer. I'm absolutely okay with people thinking maybe the ones you're talking about aren't going to be them. No problem. But why aren't we doing something? You know, if we're wrong or somebody else is wrong or Ornstein's wrong or Lynch is wrong, whatever, no problem. But again, you're not seeing any action in the market. So whatever the plan is, it ain't being executed. Sweet said, hey Craig, I'm driving to Nashville for the game tomorrow right now. Who are you excited to see play this pre-season? Leone and Xhaka for me. Definitely Xhaka. Yeah, love to see how he's going to settle in. Train Leone as well, as I was saying earlier on. Obviously, Real, be interesting to see if he gives them some time on the right-hand side. Will Wright, another one I'd be excited to see. Lewis Kumas, can't wait to see how he's progressed since we last seen him. McConnell, be another interesting one. There's quite a few. Like, there's lots of young, talented players to keep an eye on. And again, just to reiterate, Nalo completed his loan move earlier on today. So he's gone on a year-long loan. Which one was it again? It was to HJK Helsinki. So that was confirmed by the club earlier on. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight, and I'm going to go check in on the stuff that's in my inbox and get a late video out in the next 20-25 minutes or so, covering the stuff with Madrid and stuff like that around Diamande. You won't be seeing Leone out there on the pitch, I don't think, in pre-season anytime soon. I don't think he's fully ready yet. But yeah, look, tomorrow's going to be fun. And we'll be live here from 10 o'clock tomorrow to take you through the watch-along. And hopefully we can have a nice distraction and actually enjoy some footy. Right, ladies and gents, appreciate you. And yeah, I can't justify it, Craig. I just ask which one of us knows mentioned Munoz until he arrived. Nobody. Absolutely nobody, mate. And even people behind the scenes that I was speaking to that I would know are well connected. Nope, not got a clue on that one. That was one of those beautiful ones that we all enjoyed. As you said, came out of nowhere and you were spot on with it. I didn't have a clue about it. Not an idea, but I knew I enjoyed it when it happened. But, you know, That's one thing, and that's over a month ago. Right, ladies and gents, I will see you tomorrow. We'll have a news video out about 4:30. We'll have the watch along from 10 o'clock, and there'll be a news video out in the next 20-25 minutes. But as always, thank you so much for dropping in. Appreciate you giving up your Friday evening to have a chat with me. And if I don't